All right, welcome everybody to another edition of What Drives You. I am one of your co-hosts, Stan Windhorn, and with me, as always, is my good buddy and co-host, Carl Bauer. Carl, I'm stoked about our conversation today.
Our guest or conversation? Which one?
Well, we don't exactly have a guest. This is another
Virtual.
version. Yeah, yeah, and we love having our guests, and we certainly appreciate everybody who comes on the show. We've had some really incredible stories and stories of strength and success and all kinds of different things. But your idea was let's talk about some of the people who are doing what we're doing. They've just been at it for a long time and have really had some success as a YouTuber. This is one that I just find super fascinating and a lot of fun. But why don't you tell everybody who we're going to be talking about today?
So everyone, thanks for joining us as always. Well, first, Stan, do you want to take a minute and go get out of your pajamas? Get a shirt, different shirt on, or
What are you talking about? I just got this shirt. I love this shirt.
the
Does it look like
collar is so.
pajamas?
This looks like a pajama. Anyway,
They're not pajamas.
okay,
I paid
they're not.
good dollars for this shirt, and I got compliments on it the first time I wore it.
All
So
right. Well, we'll see in the comments. We got a comment section on YouTube. Folks, let us know what you think of Stan's shirt. But today, this is kind of a passion, and we'll have a story about why Stan and I, uh, our first experience of hooping together. Stan can share that story, but we're going to be talking about the Professor Live, Gordon, sorry,
Grayson,
Grayson. Now, this Stan and I are in debate: is it Boucher or is it Boucher?
it looks like Butcher to me. I don't know how he pronounces it. I know him as the Professor.
The
And for
Professor.
those of you who don't know who we're talking about, first of all, it always reminds me of a movie starring Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson called White Man Can't Jump, where Woody Harrelson is this white guy who can really play basketball. And he goes to all these street courts, and nobody takes him seriously because he looks like a country bumpkin. And then he schools everybody out on the basketball court. Well, I don't know if that character was based on the professor, Grayson Boucher or Boucher, but he's the real life version of it. He's not a really big guy. I've seen videos where he's kind of purposely dresses up sort of like a nerd and nobody's taking him seriously. And then he just schools everybody. This guy can play basketball. His moves and the smoothness and his quickness and his trickery, it is just something to behold. And of course, it's always fun to see, these hoop guys, the look on their face when they're getting, when they're getting taken to the hoop by this guy.
Yeah, he does. By the way, a little couple little stats here, little fun facts. He is at 8.56 million subscribers, pretty strong. And his top video is super strong, 84 million views. So if you haven't, yeah, if you haven't checked him out, he does a lot of fun stuff, as Stan pointed out. Dresses up as a nerd, comes in there looking like he doesn't know anything. I think he's only about 5'10", 5'9", but and he cannot jump, but he is smooth as silk, and his dribbling is and moves, crossovers are unbelievable. He gets a ton of hecklers, which are some of my favorites. People in the audience like, I could take him, I could whip him, and they get out there, then they post interview them, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy's good, and it's just really really funny to see, especially when he crosses them over and they fall on their hinders. Stan, I know you love. There's your hinder alert. Fell on his hinder, and yeah, he's an amazing guy, and he's a really talented storyteller and YouTuber.
Yeah, well, what I've noticed is some of his later videos is the cat's out of the bag, as they say. He is so recognized now that he doesn't fool as many people as he used to. But he'll show up at a court and people like, okay, I got to try my luck against the professor, but they do it with a great deal of respect. I mean, he's earned it. Did you ever play ball like that? Did you ever just go to courts and pick up games and
Yeah, a little bit, not so much, because a lot of times, with when you're playing some of those guys, like I would love to just go out there and shoot with them, but me, because I'm older, I got to have like basketball shoes and regular shorts. So I'm not always prepared to do it. But I will tell you a quick little story about my neighborhood court stand, which I think you'll appreciate. So I grew up in a little town called Glenview, Illinois, and we were not too far from the Bulls training center. So we had a really cool outside, it was a public park attached to my grammar school that had about 6 or 8 tennis courts, all lit at night, and then a separate practice, like a huge wall stand of plywood that you could practice tennis. And against
Yeah.
that was a full court basketball court that was also lit. A lot of heated pickup games. Well, Michael Jordan on occasion would show up there and school these kids, these little white kids from suburbia and play. But there were some talented people there. So I always, and it was literally a block from my house, that court. So I always hoped to run into him there. But no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's when I take, it's funny when I take it, as those of you who watch the channel for a while, I've got 2 foster brothers who are, one played in the NBA, one played D1, 6'8", 6'11". When I go out to courts with them, and we did do one of those. It's actually in the documentary, Stan, where Leon and I were shooting on the court against Lake Michigan, and these 2 guys walked up and were like, "You want to play?" And we played them, and it was a blast. So I've done a little tiny bit of it, but to your point, Grayson is so popular now. You go to his channel again, the Professor Live, and look at Grayson. He's now had to camouflage himself. So one of his most popular videos, Stan, you've probably seen this one. He puts on a Spider-Man outfit so no one can tell who he is.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
So he's got a couple of those where he is like completely like, I think the other one's like he does a blue man suit, just completely head to toe covered, and he still schools these people. So
Yeah. Well, back in the day, I mean, I can't do this anymore with my knees the way they are, but I was an avid basketball player. For a long time when I was living in California, I would go to Miles Square Park in Fountain Valley, and there was a bunch of courts, and it was just very similar to like in the movie where you just got a bunch of guys and you do pickup games. A lot of trash talking, which I never cared for that. I still don't. I don't think it has anything to do with the way you play. There's a court in Laguna Beach on the beach that's very famous for pickup games. I hated playing on that court because the wind from the ocean, just you had to learn how to play on that particular court. But the first place I ever bought was a condo in Irvine, California, in a little neighborhood called Woodbridge, actually a big neighborhood called Woodbridge. And right outside my window was a big pool and a park and a full court basketball court. So I could look out my window, see who was playing, and I just remembered I couldn't get my shoes on fast enough and then run out there. And I made some of my friends that I still have to this very day. Um, and in fact, one of them would be a really great guest on What Drives You now that I think about it. He's a concert pianist, very accomplished from Muskogee, Oklahoma. But anyway, we ended up forming a team out of that from that court, and we started playing in very competitive leagues, and we ended up going on, I think, a 3-season streak where we didn't lose a game. We got pretty good and tight together. It took a while. It was a great lesson on what it takes to really build a team and build the chemistry and all that kind of thing. But kind of back to that court, it started getting very popular. And so it was in this very nice neighborhood, but people were coming from everywhere to play pickup games. And they started getting really heated, very loud, a lot of profanity, which I didn't like either. And so the community ended up taking out half the court so that it didn't attract this. And I don't blame them because there was a lot of really rough dudes coming in there and the language that they were using and trying to pick fights and that's not to me what basketball's all about. So
no,
anyway,
yeah,
yeah, I can relate to what the professor does. Not that I was, I could hold my own, but come on, that guy he is the professor.
yeah, perfect.
We need to
And
find out
his
though, is it Grayson Borcher or Boucher? I've never heard him say his real name. It's just always the professor.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. But he inspires me for another couple of reasons. as I share, I'm about his size. So a lot of times when you walk out on the court, you're playing with some, big guys like Stan at your peak, and what were you, 6'5", 6'4"?
What do you mean at my peak? I'm still
Well,
6'5".
we're all shrinking, Stan. We're all
No,
as,
I'm not shrinking. I'm
as
still
we age.
6'5".
Okay,
At my peak.
with 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 his lift shoes on, Stan's still 6'5", but um, to play, the caliber that he's played with over the years. Uh, he played in that and one. I don't know if you guys remember that there was an and one tournament that would go around,
Yeah.
street hoops, pickup games. It was a very fun thing. But he's got a brand now, Stan, which is really cool, called Global Hooper, and it's kind of him and Emmett like a crossover. He's got a really cool logo, and he travels all around the world. When he does travel overseas, a lot of times they don't recognize him until after a couple minutes, or like they start googling him and they find out who he is, and then he just gets crowds and crowds of people in his brand. But another reason he's a survivor, so he's not one of the guys because his videos are a lot of times shorter. So he's not one of the guys like Brody, who we just talked about at YBS Youngbloods, who really took me to a different place. He's just a fun guy because he's an underdog. He's a survivor. He blew out a couple years ago, Stan. I don't know if you remember seeing or hearing about this. He was playing one of these pickup games and blew out his Achilles.
Oh,
So his journey of rehab and restoration and coming back, that to me, of all his stuff, was kind of the most inspiring because he's not super young anymore. And to rehab from an Achilles with his quickness and speed was unbelievable. It took him a year to get back to full strength. And unfortunately, he just,
I was curious about that too because he can't be a super young guy anymore. I don't know how old he is. He's younger than us, but I mean, he's got to be at an age now where you start slowing down on playing that level of hoops. I didn't realize that he got injured. I got to check that out. I'd love to see what he did and the determination to come back. But I wonder what his plans for the future are. I mean, there's going to come a day where we all got to kind of hang up our basketball shoes.
well, ironically, and this is not, we didn't time it this way. He just was playing at a charity event last week and injured himself again and really messed up his ankle. When you watch the video, Stan, you're gonna cringe because he slipped and then fell and like rolled his ankle under his body and like sat. I mean,
Uh, Ankle injuries are the most painful.
so prayers for Grayson for sure.
Yeah,
If he
absolutely.
has the same, doctors and recovery and everything, he'll be back. But he has entertained millions and millions. I mean, I think his views are in the billions because
Yeah.
he's been so faithful on YouTube for all these years.
Well, Grayson Boucher, the professor, we are sending you a lot of positive healing vibes and hope everything goes well. If you haven't checked out his videos, if you're a fan of basketball at all, you got to see this guy. It's just, and you wonder, Carl, how does a guy like him, and I think this may have been talked about on one of his shows, where he doesn't make it to the NBA. And there's been a lot of people I've seen different things where these guys, they can play basketball to this incredible level, but for whatever reason, it doesn't translate over to the style or the teamwork it takes or whatever to be in the NBA. In fact, I played against a guy in high school. His name was Tyke Peacock. He played out of Champaign-Urbana High School, Champaign High School, I believe. His brother Turk was also I mean, these guys just destroyed us. But Tyke Peacock was also an Olympic caliber. He may have even gone to the Olympics as a high jumper. I mean, this guy could just jump. There was an article about him in Sports Illustrated where this is the rim and there was on the street, so there was no net. He's got one hand on top of the ball, one hand on the bottom of the ball, and his face is right here, but he could just hoop. But the article was talking about why he never made it all the way to the NBA. And the drift of it, if I remember right, this has been a long time, is that he was kind of uncoachable. He just had this attitude or this personality that just didn't jive with teamwork and coaches telling him what to do and stuff like that. And all the gifts and talent in the world, but kind of back to the professor, have you ever heard what kept him from going to another level? Or did he just decide this is what I want to do, is I want to be the king of the street?
Yeah, I mean, it had a lot to do with the and one. I think, when he really was of the age of playing, he was now. If you look at him now in his more recent videos, a little more filled out, a little more, you know, muscular. Back then, he
Yeah,
was such a tiny little. Even though he was quick as lightning and fat, he was just so. Uh, I don't want to say frail because he's not. He's certainly not frail, but to be even Spud Webb, if you look at Spud Webb, who's one of the greatest little men in the NBA history, he was
yeah,
stocky, right? And he could take it. Allen Iverson played football and he could take it. I just don't know
yeah.
if Grayson was made up for that. And he
Maybe.
started making money in the and one tour. And I think to be able to just travel and entertain and put smiles on faces and not have to do that, there's a lot of
Yeah, I saw
politics.
a documentary about that too. That was like this big phenomenon back in the day when videos were still on VHS tapes, and it got too big too quick, and people I think got greedy and didn't do anything. But I think that is where he got to start. So he's been doing this for a long time. We got to check to see how old he is. How old is the professor? Grayson Boucher.
Well, Grayson, we got
We
that part
need to
right.
find out how old he is and how to pronounce his last name.
No, no, we just need him on and he can explain all that to us. So, Grayson, please, I know you're
Yeah.
in rehab and maybe you got some extra time now. We would love to find out one, what drives you, two, how old you are, and three, how the do we say your last name?
Yeah. And if you come on, I promise I won't wear my pajamas.
Yeah. You can get a Global Hooper shirt, Stan. We'll both get them.
They,
So,
or an
when I
and one.
interviewed, it was so funny when I interviewed Lon Kruger, very famous NBA coach. I had just happened, and he didn't even really catch it for a minute, but I had Leon's Atlanta Hawks game jersey that I wore for that episode, that interview, and like kind of like now you could only see the strap, so I like stood up and showed the whole jersey. He's like, "Oh, look at you sporting the Hawks," and it was actually Leon's jersey, which obviously Leon's a triple X, so it was hanging down like a dress on me, but very 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 fun.
All
Um,
right. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but at the beginning you wanted to tell everybody about our one time I think we've ever shot hoops. Go ahead, tell the story.
well, this has happened twice. We'll save the ping pong story for another time. But Stan, of course, being the confident, big man that he is, said, "Carl, have you ever played basketball?" I'm like,
I'm already going to stop you. I love the way you make these stories up. I'm going
"There's
to tell
no."
the story. We're at a trade show, a car trade show, probably the National Automobile Dealers Association, NADA show. And some of the people, most of the people have things in their booth that want to draw you into their booth so they could talk about their thing. And this one place had a basketball hoop, and you could shoot a basket and win a t-shirt or whatever they had for swag. And as we were walking by, Carl challenges me to how many shots did we each take? Three?
What was three or was it a 30-second timer? I can't remember.
I don't know. But the bottom line is, I'm pretty sure I airballed like all three shots. I wasn't even close. But Carl sunk a couple hoops and got bragging rights that day. Okay, now you tell your version.
Thank you. No, no, your version's fine. It's tame. It's tame, but
Tame?
well, I mean,
All
it's
right, let me tell
reasonable.
you Carl's version. Yeah, Stan was popping off about what a great basketball player he was. So, like the professor, Grayson Boucher or Boucher, I had to take him to town and I schooled him in front of everybody. Is that closer to the way you would tell it?
That's closer, but had we actually been on a court, I would have done some Grayson moves and just kind of shimmy shammed around, stand and crossed him over and through the legs, and he'd have been falling on his hinder.
Ugh,
Boom. There we go.
I hate that word. You know what? I've got new knees now. Let's next time we're together, let's just go out and maybe play a game of horse or something, and we'll see what's up.
Challenge
I'm
accepted.
ins- I'm
Let me leave you on the.
inspired by the professor now.
Yes. Thank you, Grayson, for inspiring us. What a little quick note out there, and I do a little shout out to a dear friend who I have not been in touch with in a while, but super creative guy. His name's Eric Giroux. And I was on a call with him last week, and we were talking about some technical programming stuff, and he had his one of his business partners on. So we go through this whole thing. It was this half-hour call, and So he goes at the very end of the episode, he goes, probably got one super important question for you. And I'm like, ooh, what's he got? And he goes, Carl, tell me what drives you. And I'm like, whoa. And Eric Giroux, thank you for subscribing, watching, promoting. You're the man. So it was very funny to get caught off guard, Stanley, with the what drives you.
Huh.
So we're getting some
All right.
traction up there.
All
If
right. I like
you
it.
would promote us as well, we would be everywhere through your
As soon
networks.
as I get my pajama sponsorship, then I'm going to start promoting. Hey, any pajama makers
Yes. How
that
about the
want to
My Pillow?
sponsor
We
me?
can get the My Pillow guy on for you, Stan, or a
That's all right.
mattress
I'm going to
company.
pass. I'll pass.
How about a
I'll pass.
mattress company?
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining our silliness.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you again the next time on What Drives You.
Take care.